Hello everyone, welcome to Tell Us Straight. Let's talk about shirts. Do you have a problem of sewing and your shirt still squeeze around the armpit chest area? Do you end up with a book of sleeves while you intended to make a fitted sleeve? Does it feel like the shoulders can't just lay as flat as this? Well, stay to the end of this video. I will show you all this I need to be sorted out. A well-fitted shirt starts with a great pattern. In this video, I will show you how to draft a perfect shirt pattern from scratch, ensuring accuracy and professional fit. Whether you're a beginner or looking forward to refine your skills, this guide will help create a base pattern that you can modify for different styles. Let's get started. Accurate measurements are key to a well-fitted shirt. Come on, let me show you how to measure correctly to avoid common sizing issues. You must make sure you take from the slope part of from where the shoulder cuts, like the shoulder bone here, the shoulder stops here. So you're taking from this point to the other point. That's for the complete shoulder. And then from the point you measure your shoulder, you're taking for the sleeve. And the sleeve is slightly below your wrist bone. The sleeve is slightly below your wrist bone. Let me just show you how to go about it. Now for the shoulder, I take my tape, I put it from this point to this other point, which is 18. And then from this point where I measure the shoulder, I measure the sleeve, not through the front, but you measure it around the back. Measure it this way and this way, which for a complete sleeve that would drop, we can use 26. And then for his round arms, you just measure his round arm with a 2-finger allowance in it. So for a fitted round arms for him is 12.5. Then you measure his chest for a fitted is 38. Now look at where the tape is behind. Look at where the tape is behind. Take note of that. You don't take the tape way below this or too above this. So just take note of where the tape is behind. And the chest also is having a 2-finger allowance. You put your 2-finger in it, and then for the tummy area, that's for the shape. For the waist area, we use 33 for this. And then you can go on to measure the hip area, which is 39 for shirts that would belong to the hip area. And then we also check the upper chest. You're checking the upper chest is from the center of his chest, this point to this point, which is 8 inch. The upper chest. The upper chest from the center, from the mid area of his chest to this part, which is 8 inch. You can cover the whole part, which will be around 16. So you can use the back from this point to this other point. You're measuring this way to get their upper chest. So this area to get the upper chest. But mind you, if you're measuring for the upper chest, when cutting, we'll still explain that better. And then we've taken our length and our shoulder and everything. So basically that is what you need for a perfect shirt. We'll take that from the drafting. Before we start drafting, you need a few essential tools. Make sure you have these on hand for accuracy and ease while drafting. So we're going to start our shirts pattern drafting right away. So the first thing you'll be doing is folding the edge of your pattern paper you're folding 0.5 or 0.6, whichever you feel comfortable or convenient with. And then you're taking the length of your shirt, which the template of the measurement we're using is displayed on the screen. So the length of the shirt is 31, then you're adding 1 inch to make it 32. Then you're extending that same measurement, 31 plus 1 inch, 32. So the chest divided by 4 plus 1 inch. Chest divided by 4, which is 10.5. Mind you, all our measurements are in inches. Chest divided by 4 plus 1 inch. You mark, and then you rule out all those lines. Rule out all those lines. Sorry, let me make the line bold for you to see. Rule out the lines. So you come to the top point, then you measure the shoulder. Measure the shoulder. So now you're taking the slope of the shoulder. For like somebody who has a shoulder like mine, the slope is 3 inch. But you can carefully examine the shoulder of the person you're sewing for. If the shoulder is so slopey, you could use 3.5. And then if his shoulder is not that slopey, you could use 2.5, depending on how your client's body figure is. So these are the first lines you just take. So now, mind you, this is the simplest and straightforward pattern drafting. So you just cut out these lines. So after you cut out the line, you place it on another piece for a back pattern. This is another piece for a back pattern. You make sure the allowance below is up to 4 inch. So I'm holding it down. So after this, we'll be carefully taking out, measuring all the details we need. So you're taking the shoulder slope, making sure they are same. Next thing is bringing it down to the length, and then the allowance is going back upward. So you're folding this top part over the front part. Folding the top part over the front part. This pattern are patterns you could use for your kaftans, for other shirt, bumper jackets, and other kind of shirts, as I earlier mentioned. So now, this excess, you could just bend it in this way or cut it out, whichever one you feel comfortable with. So for now, I'll be bending it this way to get the measurements of the shoulder. Shoulder is 18.5 divided by 2, which is 9.25, plus half inch is 9.75, and then you mark your 9.75 at this point. So now, how to get the total length of the circumference of the armpit? How to get the length, like the front length? Your division of chest divided by 4 you place it on the center of your shoulder. The center of your shoulder. This is your chest divided by 4, which is 10.5, and then you mark. You mark a straight line. Mark straight line. Then at the center of this, your upper chest, you mark your upper chest. Upper chest is 16 plus divided by 2 plus half inch. 16 divided by 2 plus half inch, which is 8.5. You mark it this way. So your shoulder, you can just draw the line of your shoulder downward. Draw the line of your shoulder downward, and then draw a guideline. Let me bold the line so you can see clearly. So as you can see, we're beginning constructing already. This is your upper chest. This is where your upper chest is. Okay, our shoulder to tummy is 18.5. So you mark your 18.5, and then you draw a straight line. That's 18.5. So from the end for your curve of the shirt, we go 3 or 3.5 inch upward. You mark 3.5 inch upward. So now we're coming back up to measure the chest, the circumference of the chest. Circumference of the chest is 42 divided by 4, which is 10.5. 10.5. Then you add a sewing allowance, which is 1 inch. Then the circumference of the tummy, which is the waist area, is 36. 36. You mark your 36. Divide by 4, which is 9. You mark, and then you add 1 inch for your sewing allowance. Then you go down to the hip area, just 1 inch above this 3 inch or 3.5 that you used for the shirt curve. So it's also 42 plus 1 inch sewing allowance. You mark out. Then you're going to connect all these dots. So you can use a varying curve to connect all the dots. So this point we marked for a curve. We're just going to make our curve. It can be a freehand sketch. So as you can see, we're bringing out the front as well as bringing out the back at the same time. So for this curve, you can just also use a freehand sketch or a sleeve curve, an armpit curve, to bring it out. So you're meeting this point and coming back to this point. So this is how the curve goes. This is how curve goes. So you're meeting this point. So one of the important things you need to do is to make sure that this circumference meets the demands for this particular body. So now let me explain this this armhole area. Now the total armhole of a shirt is supposed to be the chest divided by 2. Let me explain that. Now, if your chest, as this measurement is, the chest is 42, the total armhole of this particular shirt should be 42 divided by 2, which is 21. That means if the total armhole should be 21, the front would be 10.5. 10.5 is the same as 42 divided by 4. That's for the front of the armhole. And remember, we're to have our sewing allowance. So if you would be having 10.5 for this front plus sewing allowance, which is 1 inch, then it should be 11.5 for the front. So the only chances you have is to either make it 11.5 or 11.25 or at worst 11. That's what will sit on this chest. If it goes way beyond that, it should then be around 11.75, not getting up to 12.5 or so. Then the armhole area would be too wide for the person. So that's being said, we're to measure this to make sure we are correct on this particular pattern we are drafting. So set our pattern. Remember, this one is going over this, so as you have your sewing allowance already created. So now I'm measuring this. If it's not up to, we have to work on increasing it. So now we have around 11. Let me go over it again. We have around 11, which is fine. So, but I will just do a little tweak here to make it more balanced. So I'm just taking this a bit lower, not adding the upper chest, and then I'm still around the circumference. So let's go over the measurement again and see what we'll get. This is perfect. And now for the neck area, for us to measure the neck. Now to calculate the neck, this shirt is 16.5 for the neck. 16.5 divided by 5, which is equals to 3.3. 16.5 divided by 5 is 3.3. So 3.3 is supposed to be the length at which, the width at which we'll take for this neck. The length this way, 3.3, and then this other side to 3.3. But now, remember we have this folded, and then this length from this upper part to this lower part, this upper part is 3.3 divided by 2, and then this lower part is complementing the rest, the 3.3. That's 3.3 divided by 2 is 1.65. So at most, this plus this is giving us around 5 inch, close to 5 inch. Then we're taking a 5 inch this way, and then measuring 3.3 like this, but measuring our 3.3 inclusive with this fold. But my advice is not to use this 3.3 at this moment, because you might end up using this 3.3 and then getting the neck too big. So we're using a lesser number. Now we're minusing, let's say 1 inch from 3.3. Minusing 1 inch from 3.3, which is giving us 2.3. Then you mark your 2.3 this way. Mark your 2.3, and then you draw a line. So after making this box, you just use it as a guide to mark your neck. So basically we're using 3.3 minus 1 inch. Then you take this, but from here to here we're using 3.3 plus 1.65 to get this place. So this is how to get the neck. And when we are cutting, we're coming ½ inch downward to balance the back. So let's go straight to cutting out our pattern, and then I'll show you how to pattern the sleeve as well. So make sure the pattern papers are staying together. You can as well pin them not to move around. You can as well pin them not to move around. So we'll go with at this point I'm cutting both the back and the front. This pattern drafting would help you not to be trimming when sewing. As much as you take your time to draft it out, when you're on the machine, you just sew. So on the armhole area, I'm not cutting them together. As I earlier told you, the front is lesser than the back. So I'm cutting the front first. Then I'm cutting out the back and giving it 0.25 allowance away from the front. So then I'll be cutting the neck. After you draw the neck, please make sure you confirm with your tape this way. Make sure you confirm with your tape and see that it is around the measurement you want. This one is around 16 and quarter. So mind you, the round neck is not the same thing we would be using as when cutting the collar. The round neck is not what we'll be using when cutting the collar. The round neck of a shirt, when you're cutting the collar, you add extra allowance. So this is not so curvy as I want, but we can make it curvy when taking out the shirt. So as you can see, this is the front and back pattern together. Front and the back pattern together. Done. So for a female shirt, all these principles are also applied to female shirts, the waist area and so on. But to make it more fitting, for the front and the back, you would measure this and then divide. For the front and the back, you measure the front, divide it by 2, and then you take 2 inches away from this chest line. 2 inches away from this chest line. You can just create a dart this way to your preferred length. So you can just create a dart here for the shirt, for the female shirt. Create a dart from this 2 inches away from this, and then create a dart both front and the back for a good fitting for a female shirt. But for the male shirt, you don't really need a dart in front. You can put a dart behind for the back to be fitting, but for the front there's no need for any dart. But for a female shirt, I think you should do that. It makes it more lovely. So let's go straight to drafting the sleeve. pattern is ready, you can now use this as a base for different designs, casual shirts, dress shirts, or even tunics. In our next video, we'll cover how to cut and sew shirts step by step. If you find this tutorial helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification so as you don't miss on our next video on sewing the perfect shirt. Drop your questions in the comment section and I'll be happy to help. Okay, so the total sleeve length is 25. So we're adding 1.5 inch here, and then we're minusing 2.5 inch. This 1.5 inches for sewing allowance, and we're sewing 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch at the top, and then we're still bending 0.4 or 0.3 or so. So we're adding 1.5 inch, or you can add 1.25, whichever one you feel comfortable. But here I'm adding 1.5 inch. Then my wrists, the height of my wrist band is 2.5 inch. So I'm minusing 2.5 inch from this total length, which is 26.5. Then 1, 2.5. I'm back to 24. So I'm marking 24 as the new length now. Then up here, I'm marking 6 inch, and then I'm marking 2 inch away from the 6 inch. That's I'm marking from this side, I'm marking 4 inch and then 6 inch. So we're taking straight lines on what we've just marked out now. Taking straight lines on what we've just marked out. So now, this is the basic lines we need. The first thing is we'll be marking for the upper arm area, which the upper arm area is your round sleeve, your round tricep divided by 2 plus 1.5 inch, which your round tricep is 13.5. 13.5 divided by 2 is 6.75 plus 1 inch, plus 1.5 for this upper part. But for the round arm area, which is like 4 inch away from this line, for the round arm area, which is 13.5 divided by 2, 6.75 plus 1 inch. This is how you mark it. Then your forearm, so you measure for the forearm, which is lesser than the round sleeve. So the round sleeve is 13.5 and then 12.5. So mark out 12.5 and then add 1 inch. Then for the wrist, which is also less than the forearm, we'll mark 11.5 plus 1 inch this way. So now we're coming up this place, and then we're using 5.5 to mark this point. Mind you, this 5.5 is for the range of the chest of 40 to 42, 43, and then when the chest is going to 44, we can use 5.75, like that, just adding, tweaking to how it sits well for you. And then we're taking our curve this way. It is important you understand how to make this curve. So now we'll still measure this curve. The front of our shirt is 11, so we have to get 11 at this top part. If it's not up to 11, then we have to add. This is 10.75, so we're adding 0.25 here, so to get 11. So this is 11 right now. So this is our 11, and then so we're connecting all the dots. Connecting it this way. So you're making sure you get connected. So you see how the sleeve is looking. It's not looking too big. So now there's something I would want to explain why this sleeve cap is this deep. Why I made it this deep. Now, if you make a shallow sleeve cap, let's say 3.5. Let's say 3.5, and then I want to get 11. So from this point, I'm taking my curve this way to this point. I'm getting my curve this way, and then I'm measuring 11 this way. So now you can see that 11 from this point has to have a curve down to meet this point, which is adding extra allowance on this point, and then making the sleeve not to balance, making the sleeve to have squeeze on the armpit area, while this other point also is making the arm to be bogus. So we have to drop it inward, this downward, to make sure we have a slim sleeve, and then it laps well. So for this top part, you have to be conscious of how to bring out this curve. If this curve here doesn't come out well, then the shoulder would not sit well. The shoulder would be having a point. It will be pointing upward at the shoulder area. So this curve have to come out well. One of the issues you have in taking this curve is making it sharp. Like let's say I'm bringing my hand in this way. I'm making it this sharp, like this lower line here. It is wrong. It will make the shoulder have a point, and then when I'm bringing it out too much this way, also around the chest area it will have excess. So you need to be so conscious about how you bring out this curve. So just try and then give me your feedback on how you end up this. So this is basically all we need for our shirt pattern drafting. As for the collar, I already have a video on my channel about how to make a very good and nice collar. You could just check that to make your collar for this shirt, and then nothing again. So this is the sleeve, and this is the back, and this is the front. So now when trimming your shirt, you bring out this part you folded in the initial. So I'm glad you stayed to this time. Let's go make some shirts.